Good morning, Life Point Church. Welcome back to another week together in our devotions. We have been studying last week on being faithful to the truth, and I'm excited to bring to you this week's lesson on not ashamed. We talked all last week about Paul and his relationship with Timothy. We're going to kind of touch on that a little bit by looking at 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 8. Paul commanded Timothy, "Do not be ashamed of the testimony about our Lord or of me, his prisoner. Rather, join with me in suffering for the gospel by the power of God." This goes hand in hand with the verse in Romans chapter 1, verse 16, where he said, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek." Paul knew what he was talking about. We cannot be faithful to the truth if we are ashamed of the truth of Jesus Christ. Paul exemplified a powerful faithfulness to the truth. He was not ashamed of the gospel. And here I just referenced two verses where he expressed that. But it was more than just words. It was action. He testified in front of a powerful man named King Agrippa. And this week we're going to take some time and look at that interaction and that testimony that he had with King Agrippa that day. He could have let his shame of being a prisoner, being in chains, being a foreigner or a native of the conquered country, the conquered nation of Israel. He was a native of that country, standing in front of someone who was not Jewish, but had taken possession of that land and now ruled over it. He could have let his shame to be part of an Israelite person, to be part of the conquered nation. He could have let that shame keep him silent. He could have let his shame of being in chains, of being a prisoner, of a convicted criminal standing in front of this king. He could have let the shame of this situation that he found himself in keep him from speaking. He could have been self-conscious. He could have been ineffective because of his own insecurities, but he was not. He boldly spoke the gospel to the king despite his circumstances. And so it is that we must not let our inferiorities and our skewed view of ourselves keep us from sharing the gospel with whomever Jesus gives us access to. Don't talk yourself out of blessing someone's life because you're worried about your appearance, your speech, or your mannerisms. Love that person enough to not be ashamed of the gospel. This whole series this week is going to deal with taking the focus off of ourselves and putting it onto the person that we're trying to reach with the gospel, and also putting it on the gospel itself, the death, the burial, the resurrection of the one we serve, Jesus Christ. Because when I take a moment and I share the gospel with someone, I shouldn't be focused on myself. It's not about me, it's about someone else. So today I encourage you, with every person you meet today, don't have an attitude of insecurity. Don't have an attitude of inferiority. Don't sit there and talk yourself out of it, but let the love of Jesus Christ flow through you and be expressed boldly and completely. God bless you today, and I'll see you back for part 2 tomorrow.